All right, so this video is about Crawford versus Canelo, and who do I think is gonna win? To be honest, it's a really hard decision to make because I really like both fighters. But I think the best thing I can do is just try to break down, you know, w- you know, I guess just try to assess the fighters and how I think they would try to win. Um, so first we can assess Crawford. He is at heart, not at heart, but he's a more like at the core of his fighting, you know, being. He's a counterpuncher. He likes to counterpunch people. He's really intelligent when it comes to counterpunching. He likes to do things like, throw away punch and then make you counter, and then he'll counter your counter with one of his punches. Um, he doesn't really walk people down, um, but he does keep the fight in the middle of the ring for the most part. I don't really ever see him like he moves around, but I've never really seen him, like on his bike, like a Arislandi Lara or like a William Skull. Um, he moves around when he's like trying to reposition himself so he can counter, but he doesn't move around like, like I need to get out of this. Like he doesn't want to be in that mid range where where like you're pretty much forced to engage with somebody. So from what I've seen, uh he likes to, like I said, keep the fight in the middle of the ring. And he, if he's not comfortable, he'll move around, but he won't move around too much, you know um So I guess, yeah, I guess that's what we can assess about Crawford. You know, he likes to keep the fight in the middle of the ring. He's a good counterpuncher. As far as being a switch hitter, uh, his last fights, he's stayed. I want to say his last 6 fights, he's definitely stayed. He's entered southpaw, stayed southpaw, hasn't really made a big like effort to fight orthodox. I feel like he feels strong at um southpaw. I feel like he's probably, fought at southpaw, sparred at southpaw, and just, you know somebody who's naturally orthodox. um and then, they fight southpaw and they get good at being southpaw. You just want to keep getting better at southpaw because, you want to, let's say you've trained so many thousands of hours, as a orthodox, you want to put the same amount of hours into your southpaw so you can be just as good southpaw as you are orthodox. But not only that, you know, I realize that there's not a ton of southpaws, so there's a big advantage to being a southpaw. And I think he realizes that, and that's probably why he likes to be southpaw, because there is a big advantage in being southpaw. Um, so now that we've assessed, Bud Crawford, and his fighting style, um, he's also a brawler. If you sit there and trade with him, he if you sit there and you swing and you don't get out of the, like, you get out of the way, but you're pretty much like rolling the dice. Because I've seen him, fight, and there's some guys that stand their ground, and he's like, oh, okay, and he loves that. He loves to sit there and pretty much play this like, I bet you I'm gonna hit you way harder than you hit me, and like kind of game. And that's what makes him an exciting fighter. He's great. He's great at it. So at the core, he's a counter puncher. At the very core, he's a brawler. I'm pretty sure that if he could brawl, just if all of his opponents wanted to like fight, he would be more than happy to fight them. But obviously, boxing is boxing. You got to be smart. But yeah. So he's a brawler. He's a boxer, counter puncher. Um, do I see a lot of layers to Crawford? Um, I think that he's similar to Mayweather in the sense that he's adaptive. He can adapt to somebody like fighting him. If somebody's trying to brawl him, he can box them. If somebody's trying to box him, he can brawl with them. Like I believe that he has the ability to, change fighting styles and pretty much execute different game plans in each of the rounds. He knows boxing very well, and he understands what's going on at every single moment, and every single moment of the fight, every round. He understands. He knows everything that's going on. He's like, all right, I got hit with this punch, I got hit with that punch, he's moving this way. He's assessing every single thing, and he's making note of everything. So he's also an adaptive fighter. So the way I see him beating Canelo would be just to box him and fight him in spurts. I believe that Crawford, regardless of him coming from 154 pounds to 168, I believe that he still hits hard enough to, keep anybody honest, even if it was, like somebody that doesn't punch as hard, like you don't want to get punched in the face. People always talked about like Mayweather and his punching power, like how it was so deceptive, and it's just the simple fact that Mayweather had really fast hands, and speed equals power. If you hit somebody fast enough, you're gonna stun them. So I do believe that Crawford has enough power to make Canelo stop and go, oh man, I gotta watch out for this. I can't just, Canelo's not just gonna walk in and do whatever he wants to Bud Crawford. I don't believe that that's gonna happen. I believe that Crawford might even come out orthodox and implement the shoulder roll, just like Mayweather. And I also believe that you know that he has enough power to keep Canelo honest. I don't think he has enough power to hurt Canelo, but it is boxing and anything can happen. So I will say that I do believe he has enough power to stun Canelo. I believe he can definitely stun Canelo, especially if he catches him coming in, because that's one big thing that people forget to mention, that like if somebody's coming in and you hit them, even if you're not a huge puncher, they're going to feel that twice, 10 times as much because they're coming in. Like, for example, when he got stunned by Gamboa, the reason he got stunned was because he was moving forward, and Gamboa threw a right hand and it hit him, and it, like, if you see the right hand, it has like his face kind of like the punch has like this kind of like stopping power, Like you see the punch hit him and kind of like stop, because the punch ran into him, and his face moving forward kind of like took out the power of the punch. Pretty much his face absorbed all the punch. Kind of like when you're hitting the pads and your trainer hits the mitt or hits your punch down. Like after a while your punches you're gonna get tired. Because he's hitting your. If you got a good coach, he's gonna hit. He's gonna make sure you get tired. He's gonna hit your. He's gonna make sure that he hits your punches, good. And yeah, so there's that. He can definitely stun Canelo. But again, Canelo is not just some walk forward, like there to get hit kind of guy. He's just not. The times that we've seen Canelo get hit is when somebody's boxing him at a at long distance, and then two, when he's actually fighting somebody, you know like against Golovkin. Against Golovkin they had a great fight, and the only reason that they were hitting each other as much as they were was because Gennady Golovkin was, pressuring him. And he has a steel chin, and he wasn't afraid to get hit. So he was willing to get hit and hit Canelo. That's why you see Canelo getting hit in that fight. And you never ever seen that ever again. You've never seen Canelo go blow for blow with somebody really like that. You know what I'm saying? Like there has been a couple fights where he has been getting hit, like against Munguia, against Berlanga, but nothing like what Triple G did. Triple G beat him, but essentially, you know, he was there to get hit because he was fighting, you know. It's not like, you know, if you look at all the other fights where like he was getting outboxed, like against uh Triple G outboxed him, but he also outfought him. But the people that like outboxed him, like Lara, Mayweather, Bivol, they all kept their distance and they moved away, for the most part. And then even when Canelo would get hit, like especially against Bivol, he'd move his head. Oh man, he moved his head a lot. Like it was really beautiful the way that he was able to, you know, like yeah, he was getting tagged a few times, but like he just kept moving his head. It didn't matter if he got tagged one, two, three, four times. He would still move his head. He still saw everything that was coming. It's not like he just stood there and took punches to the face. No, he was rolling. He did get hit, but he was rolling with a lot of the punches, and the ones that he did get hit flush with, it was, what I'm saying, it was like I said, long distance, you know. Um but anyways, I really, I guess, like I said, the way that I see Crawford beating Canelo is if he boxes him, and then when he feels comfortable, when he has that range, when he finds an opening or creates an opening, however it is, maybe throwaway punch, maybe feint, maybe catch and shoot, whatever it is, when he feels comfortable, fight, you know, not just one punch at a time, because I mean, that's kind of, it's not really his style either, even though it is a strategic, that could be a strategic tactic, like don't throw combinations. Mayweather had that tactic. Mayweather never threw combinations. And the most he would throw a combination would be a 1-2, or like a one, like just two punches, or it would be like a throwaway punch, another punch, and then another punch. He was very selective with his punches. He didn't really try to throw combinations. I think probably because he understood that the more combinations I throw, the more likely I am to get hit. When do you see, or when do you remember Mayweather throwing a 1 2 3, one, like, back to back, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, or 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2? Like, you just never see it because you know Mayweather is, he chooses. He knows who he can get away with it and who he can't. So Canelo is also a counterpuncher, but he's a walk you down type of counterpuncher. He pretty much, but he can also move back. He can box, you know. Um, but he's like Bud, but he's different in the sense that he likes to move forward. Ever since I watched Canelo from when he was a teenager, he likes to go forward. He's kind of like a pressure fighter, and he throws combinations. He's a combination, but he's not like a volume puncher. He can throw a lot of punches, you know, but he's also very selective. But he definitely throws more combinations than Mayweather. Um, but I do, I do think that well, okay, so are we off the subject of Bud Crawford, how he would win? Yeah, so how do I think Bud Crawford would win? I mean, I really feel like that's probably the best way he would win because, I mean, to say that he's going to sit there and outfight Canelo, I mean, it's possible. It really is possible. Um, because, like I said, he likes to fight, he loves to fight. And it's possible. He could totally sit there and out hustle Canelo. I mean, has he ever had to sit there and dig deep and fight back and forth with somebody? No. Does he have a chin? Is his chin strong enough to sit there and for him to have a Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo type of fight? It's possible. It is very possible. You know, um, I don't know. But what I do know, well, it's possible. Like I said, it's possible. We don't know. These are all questions that have yet to be answered. Um, but it is very, very possible. I'm talking about it because I can see it happening. I can totally see Crawford out hustling Canelo and just taking the fight to him and getting hit and still coming back. That's a very big possibility, you know. But because we haven't had to see Crawford, you know, have this like war with somebody, it's hard to distinguish if that's the route he'll take or if that's the kind of fight that'll end up happening. Um, but as far as Canelo, like I was saying, Canelo is a go forward pressure kind of fighter. He has a great jab. He has every punch in the book. He has a great punch selection. He throws uppercuts when he sees the openings, when he's in tight. I don't ever really see him throw uppercuts from the outside. I think he's learned by now that, uppercuts are safer to throw when you're on the inside. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really feel like Canelo has great head movement. He has the shoulder roll, um, and he has a really good guard. He blocks punches and he rolls with them. He sees them coming. He's not just a come forward getting hit type of guy, even though it might look like he's getting hit because he's blocking the punches or rolling with them, or he's when he's walking people down and he's like, and you can hear the punch hit the gloves, but he's not getting hit. He's not getting hit, and he's doing a really, really good job of making the other guy work. And you know I think that he's he's definitely the way that Canelo fights is, I'm gonna make this guy fight, and I'm gonna hurt him. With all of his fights, he's just walking people down, and when they want to exchange, he's more than happy to exchange. Just like Crawford, I believe he's a brawler at heart. If he feels that you can't hurt him, he'll sit there and trade with you. And even if he's not dumb. He's not gonna sit there and just take punishment, or try to get into this crazy, like, you know Bradley versus Provodnikov type of fight. You know what I'm saying? He's never been a, like, throw caution to the wind type of guy. He's not like that. You know, People saying that he's flat footed. It's like, okay, yeah, you can say he's flat footed, but you need to keep your feet grounded when you're throwing power punches. So there's a reason behind the way Canelo walks forward. You know what I'm saying? Why is he gonna hop up on his toes when he's coming towards you? No, he doesn't. That's expending too much energy. If Canelo was like this in and out type of fighter, where he's boxing more than he is trying to walk you down, uh, then yeah, I understand it. But Canelo, he's not on his toes because he's not trying to do this, this, like, this I guess you could say, like, this slick boxer type of fighting. He's a slick boxer. You know, he's just not like I guess you could say, like, you know, like uh like a slick black fighter. Black fighters are known for being in and out type of fighters. You know, in and out, boom, 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 back and forth, jab, jab. Like, it's a very I believe it's a very common style, and everybody understands what a slick fighter fights like, and it's kind of like jab, you know, jab, you know, jab, step back, jab, step forward, back, step. It's consistent stepping back and forth, you know, looking for an opportunity to let off a combination. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to Canelo, Canelo's like, okay, like, oh, you throw your jab, I'm parrying, I'm throwing my jab back, and he's always hunting. He's not trying to play this like this like this I'm slicker than you type of deal. It's like, no, man. He knows what he's in there to do, and it's to hurt you. He's not in there trying to be slicker than you. He's not there trying to out jab you. He's in there, and he is a pressure combination boxer puncher, and he's trying to get to your body, and he's trying to get to your head, and he's trying to get to you. He's trying to hurt you. The name of the game, I mean, it's the hurt game. He's not in there trying to score points. He's never been a type of, like, you know, I'm winning. I'm winning the round by scoring points. No, he's every time he's in there, he's trying to hit, and he's hitting somebody. He's trying to knock them out. His trainer had to tell him mid fight, don't try to knock this guy out. He's too strong. When he fought Golovkin, I think he told him twice, don't try to knock him out. He's too strong. You know, but for the most part, Canelo does try to knock everybody out. You can see it. It doesn't always happen, but it that's the kind of fighter that I am assessing Canelo as. He's a go forward pressure fighter, um, and very seldomly has he had to, get on his toes and box and move back, and the only time I actually ever saw him do this was against Golovkin. You know, um, and then in the second fight, he didn't give up so much ground, but at the end of the day, he was evenly matched with Triple G. He lost the first fight. I do believe he lost the second fight. but it is what it is. So if I could assess Canelo and how he would win this fight, just be break down Crawford. Make him expend energy, hurt him to the body. Make you know when he has, get him on the ropes and unleash, you know, punches. Do I, and I think that when he does that, I think that Bud's gonna be looking for some counters off the ropes, possibly. I don't know if I don't know. I mean, he did it against Errol Spence, got that knockdown, uh, with that right uppercut, I believe. Um, so I mean, it's really tricky. It's like Crawford can do this, Canelo can do this. Like they can pretty much adapt to each other. Um, you know, with Crawford, honestly, I'm gonna say, that I feel like he has more adaptive skills, you know, versus Canelo, which is, um, you know, he kind of like, you know, sticks to one fighting game plan. I've never really seen Canelo execute a different game plan versus what his, core boxing style is. And I believe that's why he's lost to, you know, people like Mayweather, Golovkin, um, Bivol, because, well, for one, with Bivol, he needed to throw more punches. Definitely needed to throw more punches. Um, Against Floyd, again, needed to throw more punches. Well, then again, man, it's each fight is so different. But I feel like the adjustments that needed to be made mid fight for him to win those fights, he wasn't able to do it, and that's why he lost. Because I feel like he has one kind of, his fighting style is just it just usually I feel like it can beat anybody's style, honestly. I think it's a really good style, and I think that's why he doesn't ever abandon it. He just, I think he has a lot of self belief in his abilities. You know, um, but I mean, can I should I pick a winner? Nah, I can't pick a winner. I really can't. I like Canelo. I like Crawford. I want I want it to just be a good fight. I have nothing against Canelo aside from the fact that, you know, he's felt like, like when he's lost, but he's like said he won. That's kind of always been my big thing with him. It's just been like, bro, you lost. You're gonna sit here and tell look everybody in the eye, and tell them you thought you won. Like when he lost against Bivol, like he thought he was gonna get his hand raised. It's like, no, dude, you lost. And then he had the nerve to say, "Oh, I was so close to beating Bivol." No, you weren't. You were not close to beating Bivol, ever, and you didn't beat Triple G. So that's my only like you know disdain with him is like him not giving credit to the fighters that have beaten him. He has given credit to Bivol, but to sit there and just say that you were close to beating him is just like he's so delusional, like, and I think that's just pride, like you go in there, you fight out your heart, and you just I don't know, you just feel like you deserve it, especially like against like Golovkin. I could see why he thought he won that fight, because he fought his heart out, but he didn't win. And it's just it's just sad that he can't just be like, I got beat. you won. You know, it was a draw, but you lost. You know, um, and Bud Crawford. I don't have anything against Bud Crawford. Um, I do think he could be more humble. I kind of didn't like when he said, "I'm gonna stump a mud hole in him." And I was just like, bro, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say any of that. You just go out there and do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Personally, I just like fighters that don't have to talk trash. But that's me. I'm not a fighter. I'm just a fan. Um, but that's just me. You know, I'm a Christian. I like to see people, have good sportsmanship. And good sportsmanship is saying, like, just not talking trash. You don't have to talk trash. But that's just me. Uh, but if I could finalize on Canelo and how he beats Bud Crawford, I mean, I think he beats him the same way everyone else thinks he's gonna beat him. Uh, constant pressure. Make sure he goes to the body. And also, I think that he can actually even outbox Bud Crawford. I think that he has just as good as speed, Crawford, and I think that he can put punches together well enough. So, there's more than one way that Canelo can win. There's more than one way that Bud Crawford can win. Obviously, with Canelo, you know, kind of always relying on his style of fighting to get him through the day. But for the most part, hopefully it's a good fight. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I really do. Because I think that Bud's not gonna, he's not just gonna let this guy Canelo, bully him. He's just gonna. He's just. I just feel like Bud's gonna really fight back hard, and he's gonna go back to the corner smiling like, yeah, yeah, this is real. This is me, you know. But I also think that Canelo, will have his moments, and I don't. I guess you could say I don't want to be wrong. Like, do I want to pick somebody? It's like, yeah, but I don't want to be wrong. I think that's the most difficult thing about picking someone to win is like you don't want to be wrong, you know. Um, but I'm just gonna go ahead and yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick Bud. Bud by a close decision. And they're gonna rob him. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think they're gonna rob Bud. So that's all I got.